What's happening around the world?
And what's happening here at home? A very good evening. You're watching Primetime News on Newsfirst. Bringing you the news, I'm Mariam Gunavijaya.
And I'm Sandra Ferdinando. Let's take a look at your headlines for tonight.
Government settles foreign debt and interest to the tune of $1,909.7 million, says Kirti Thenakun. Election Commission says holding two elections simultaneously is not a feasible scenario. GL, Dilan, Gudheva and others from Freedom People's Congress align with SJB alliance. Prasanna Ranatunga warns that Nama's candidacy could split the SLPP.
මේක පක්ෂය දෙකට බෙදෙනවා මං හිතන්නේ ජාතික සංවිධායක හැටියට එතුමා ඒ වගේ තීන්දුවක් ගනී කියලා.
Nimal Siripala tells SLFP to summon counsel in the absence of Sirisena and co. Activist turned actress Damita remanded.
First up in news here at home, Kirti Thenakun, the Director General of Community Affairs at the President's Office, announced that the government of Sri Lanka has settled a total of $1.9 billion in foreign debt and interest payments. He made this announcement during a press conference held at the Presidential Media Centre.
ලංකාව බහුපාර්ශ්වික සහ ද්විපාර්ශ්වික පාර්ශවයන් වෙත ගෙවී යුතු ණය මුදල් ගෙවීමෙන් පස්සේ
After Sri Lanka serviced the debt owed to multilateral and bilateral parties, the government continuously serviced the debt and interest owed to organizations including the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, the Asian Development Bank. Between President Ranil Wickremesinghe's assumption of office to date, the government has disbursed $1,338.8 million in multilateral loans and interests. In addition, the government of Sri Lanka has paid an amount of $571 million as bilateral loans and interests. Between President Ranil Wickremesinghe's assumption of office to date, the government of Sri Lanka has settled a loan of $1,909.7 million in foreign debt and interest payments. Many political commentators and those who speak on economics claim that the rupee stabilized because the country defaulted on its debt repayments and interest payments. That is a lie. All multilateral loans owned by Sri Lanka have been settled on the due date and with interest, except for the parties who are negotiating the debt.
සම්පූර්ණ මුදල විදිහට ඇමරිකන් ඩොලර් බිලියන 1.9ක් ගෙවීමෙන් පස්සේ
Sri Lanka's Election Commission has expressed that conducting both the presidential election and the general election simultaneously is not a feasible scenario. This clarification was issued by Commissioner General of Elections Samantri Ratnayake in response to inquiries about the possibility of scheduling both elections on the same day.
Wins the election. මැතිවරණ දෙක වර්ග දෙකක්. විධායකයෙක් කියන්නේ එකක් විධායකයෙක් කියන්නේ තව කාරණාවක් නිසා.
The matter frequently discussed revolves around the proposition to streamline costs by consolidating the two elections. These elections are of distinct natures, one pertaining to the executive and the other parliamentary domain. The electoral process for the presidential election is governed by the provisions laid out in Presidential Elections Act number 15 of 1981, while the parliamentary elections follow the guidelines set forth in Parliament Elections Act number 1 of 1981. There exists a discernible disparity between the respective timelines outlined in these statuses. The feasibility of holding both elections on a single day warrants a comprehensive examination of practical and legal considerations. In the absence of such an assessment, arriving at a conclusive stance on the feasibility of simultaneous elections is challenging. In practice, the approach to conducting these elections varies, necessitating the use of two separate ballot papers. Consequently, each polling centre must deploy two ballot boxes simultaneously, signifying a duplication of resources from insurance to retrieval. Thus, the notion that significant cost reductions would be achieved through simultaneous elections appears doubtful. Given the complexities of our electoral framework, the practicality of this approach seems questionable. Ultimately, voters would be tasked with navigating both electoral process simultaneously, mitigating an anticipated savings. Based on my observations, conducting simultaneous elections under existing circumstances without electoral system reforms is far from straightforward.
මේ තියෙන තත්ත්වයන් තුල එක දිනයක මැතිවරණ පැවැත්වීම කියන එක කියන තරම් සරල කාරණාවක් නොවනවා.
What election will be called for next?
ඔබ 2024 වර්ෂයේ නොවැම්බර් මාසයේ 18ට
I assume holding the presidential election between October 18th and September 18, 2024 is in accordance with the Constitution of Sri Lanka, and the Election Commission should conduct the poll to elect the president. Therefore, 10 billion rupees has been allocated via the 2024 budget as well. Also, the necessary activities for holding the election this year will be carried out as soon as the election is announced. Even now, as the Election Commission, we are engaged in the preliminary tasks related to an election.
කළ යුතු මූලික කාරණා සම්බන්ධයෙන් ඒ කටයුතු කරගෙන යනවා.
Professor G.L. Peiris and 6 members of the Freedom People's Congress formally aligned themselves with the Samagi Jana Alliance, which is led by the Samagi Jana Balawega. The agreement solidifying this alliance was signed today in Colombo.
Professor G.L. Peiris, representing the Freedom People's Congress, formally signed the agreement alongside SJB leader Sajid Premadasa and SJB General Secretary Ranjit Madhuma Bandara at the Mihilaka Madura at the BMI Sage in Colombo. Other members of parliament who also endorsed the agreement include Dilam Pereira, Dr. Nalaka Gudaheva, KPS Kumarasiri, Vasantayapa Bandara and Dr. Uppul Galapati, all from the Freedom People's Congress.
මේ ආණ්ඩුව අපේ අපි තමයි මේ ආණ්ඩුව පත් කරගත්තේ අන්න එහෙම හැඟීමක් අනිවාර්යෙන් ජනතාව තුල තිබිය යුතුයි.
The masses of the country should feel that this government was elected by them and that it is their government. That is what is missing today. However, the government claims that it lifted the country from an economic crisis, adding that even foreign leaders come and ask how it was done. We would like to know that as well. We also like to learn lessons. But what is the reality? So far, many beautiful words have been used. Optimization. What is optimization? So far, the only thing that has happened in the name of optimization is that the money of the working people of this country, which is placed on the EPF, has been looted. This is not a miracle. This is a nightmare. Now is the time to wake up and end it.
දැන් කාලය ඇවිල්ලා අවදි වෙන්නට මේ ඛේද වාචකය අවසන් කිරීමට
ශ්‍රී ලංකා ෆස්ට් මාතෘභූමියට මුල් තැන වැඩපිළිවෙල යටතේ ජනතා කේන්ද්‍රීය රාජ්‍ය පාලනයකට
We are advancing towards a citizen-centric administration through the Sri Lanka First initiative, which prioritizes the well-being of our motherland. Social equality and justice are the forefront of our agenda. In our journey towards social democracy, we aim to progress along a central path, embracing the strengths of humanitarian capitalism, populist, socialist and socio-democratic principles. Our endeavours represent a sacred mission in action where we will not share ministries and other positions.
ගැසට් කිරීම ඒ සියල්ලකගෙන්ම බැහැර වුණු ශුද්ධ වූ ගමනක් අපි ක්‍රියාත්මක කරනවා.
Following the inking of the agreement, opposition leader Sajid Premadasa and the representatives of the Freedom People's Congress arrived at the office of the opposition leader in Colombo.
Today marks just the beginning. Therefore, it's imperative to clarify that within next 3 months, we intend to forge alliances with other groups, individuals and political parties. We will include groups that accept our economic policies.
A joint media briefing was held at the opposition leader's office under the chairmanship of opposition leader Sajid Premadasa.
Today is the 5th of April 2024. The time is 11:14. We reached a decision to form a coalition government with Sajid Premadasa exactly 20 months and 5 days ago. No one in the Freedom People's Congress has deviated from that decision during these 20 months and 5 days. We had to take some initial steps officially in implementing that decision. The process has begun. We began work as the frontline charge. Now everyone else will join us. We hope to support Sajid Premadasa and take him to the President's office as a great leader of this country.
මහනිලම හැටියට සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාස මැතිතුමාව ජනාධිපතිතුමාට අරන් යන්න.
මොකද සට්ටම්බිරාල කිව්වා ඊට පස්සේ ගොඩපෙරක දොරෝ කිව්වා. දැන් මේ ඒ කණ්ඩායමමද මෙතන ඉන්නේ.
ඉස්සෙල්ලාම කියන්න ඕනේ ජනාධිපතිතුමා පුදුමාකාර විදිහට අපිට බය වෙලා ඉන්නේ.
First of all, I must say that the president is afraid of us. We are glad. If the president of the country is so afraid and directly or indirectly struggles with fear when our names are mentioned, it shows that he can see what is going to happen in the future. Our journey's ultimate goal is to get him home. This will definitely happen sometime in early September or October. A new development has emerged. Those who came into power with the Pohottuwa votes are now joining our cause. Together they are attempting to appoint a leader previously rejected by the people, claiming it reflects the will of the nation. We must prioritize the voice of the people, not a distorted parliament.
ජනතාවගේ මතය බලන්න එපා. පාර්ලිමේන්තුව තුළ විකෘතියක්. ඉතින් අපි තෝරලා බේරලා අපිට ඕන කට්ටිය ගන්න. يعني චරිත සාතිකේ බලලා ගන්න. අනිවාර්යයෙන්. මෙතන චරිත ටික හොඳයි. හොඳයි. හොඳටම හොඳයි.
Wins the election.
The UNP is of the stance that the presidential election will be held in October. Speaking in Badulla today, the national organizer of the UNP announced that Ranil Wickremesinghe will contest the election with the backing of all parties except one.
As per the constitution, elections must be held in October and that should be a presidential election. We are preparing for that. I believe that President Ranil Wickremesinghe will contest as a common candidate with the support of other parties except for one. However, on the 1st of May, we will show how powerful the UNP is. I have only one thing to say about MP Dilan. He once showed me a bottle of poison and told that if Sajith Premadasa comes into power, we will have to drink that. I don't know how to laugh when that same person is forming alliances with Sajith Premadasa. I only have to tell that if that bottle of poison is still there, it's better if he drinks it.
Wins the election.
While the SJB is entering into new alliances and the SLFP is in chaos, what is the SLPP doing? State Minister of the Wickremesinghe government, Prasanna Ranatunga, said today that certain decisions will be taken to ensure the survival of the SLPP. He participated in the Manujananya Kara's Jayagamu Sri Lanka program today.
මම විශ්වාස කරනවා මේ ඉන්න අපේක්ෂකයෝ අතරින් ජයග්‍රහණය කරන්න පුළුවන් අභියෝගය බාර අරගෙන රටක් ගොඩනගන්න පුළුවන් නායකයා රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මහත්තයා කියලා.
එතකොට පොහොට්ටුවෙන් නාමල් රාජපක්ෂ මහත්තයා ඉදිරිපත් කළොත් මොකද කරන්නේ?
එතුමාගේ පියාම කිව්වා නාමල් රාජපක්ෂ මන්ත්‍රීතුමාට තව කාලය තියෙනවා කියලා. මම හිතන්නේ දේශපාලන අධ්‍යක්ෂින් බහුල එවැනි නායකයෙක් කියන දෙයක් හැමෝම පිළිගන්න ඕනේ.
නමුත් අපිට පේනවා නාමල් මහත්තයා දෙන්න වගේ හදන්නේ කියලා.
නෑ නාමල් රාජපක්ෂ මන්ත්‍රීතුමා තාම එහෙම කියලාවත් නෑ.
හදිසියව තාවොත් ඔබතුමාලාගේ සහයෝගය ලැබෙන්නේ නැද්ද?
එහෙම වුණොත් මේක පක්ෂය දෙකට බෙදෙනවා. මම හිතන්නේ ජාතික සංවිධායක හැටියට එතුමා ඒ වගේ තීන්දුවක් ගනී කියලා.
ඒ කියන්නේ ඉදිරියේ රනිල් මහත්තයා තමයි ඉන්න හොඳම සුදුසුකම.
මම දන්නේ රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මහත්තයා ඉල්ලයිද නැද්ද කියලා. ඉල්ලුවොත් සුදුසුයා තමයි.
ඒ කියන්නේ ඔබතුමා කියන්නේ බහුතරයක් එතුමාගේ පැත්තට ඉන්නවද මේ වෙනකොට?
Yes, many in the SJB are people that worked with President Wickremesinghe. Even the JVP worked with him during the government of good governance. It is easier for them to work as a cohesive unit rather than for us.
දේශපාලන පරිගැනීම් කරපු ඒ කණ්ඩායම ඉතින් ඒගොල්ලන්ට හරි ලේසි එකට වැඩ කරන්න. අපිට වඩා ඒගොල්ලන්ට ලේසි.
ඒ කියන්නේ හදිස්සියක මේ ගැස්සිලා ගියොත් මේ පොට්ටුව කැඩෙනවද මේකේ වුණොත් එහෙම?
මේ ඉතින් පොට්ටුව
No, we are working to ensure that does not happen. I think that Mahinda Rajapaksa as an experienced leader will make the right calls.
අනාකරණය කරයි.
Wins the election. What will happen to the Sri Lanka Freedom Party that is now in crisis?
Senior Vice President of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, Minister Nimal Siripala de Silva, has requested the SLFP's Acting General Secretary to convene the SLFP's Politburo on the 8th of April. In a letter to the Acting General Secretary, Minister Nimal Siripala de Silva said, against the backdrop of an injunction prohibiting Maithripala Sirisena from serving in the role of chairman of the SLFP's future endeavours are expected to be taken up for discussion at the Politburo meeting. It was also reported that the letter invited members of the Politburo, except for Maithripala Sirisena, Dayasiri Jayasekara and Shan Vijayalal de Silva.
The Colombo District Court issued an injunction prohibiting Maithripala Sirisena from serving in the role of chairman of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party. This legal order, effective until 18th of April, was granted in response to a request made by former President Chandrika Bandaranaike Kumaratunga. Mahinda Amravira, Lasantha Lagiyawanna and Duminda Dissanayake, who were given the opportunity to return to their positions according to the court after being removed from the positions of the party, are currently involved in the SLFP operations. Former Chief Ministers Peshara Jayaratne and Isru Devapriya, who were away from the SLFP's active political activities in the past, also visited the SLFP headquarters today.
ශ්‍රී ලංකා නිදහස් පක්ෂ මූලස්ථාන ගොඩනැගිල්ලට අවුරුදු 5කට පස්සේ තමයි ආවේ. ඉතින් මම හිතනවා දැන්වත් නිවැරදි පැත්තට යන්න අවශ්‍ය නායකත්වය ලබා දෙයි කියලා අපි විශ්වාස කරනවා.
මේට අවුරුදු 6කට ඉස්සෙල්ලා මාවත් ශ්‍රී ලංකා නිදහස් පක්ෂයේ එක පැය 24න් අයින් කරා. ඉතින් අද අපිට මේ අපේ මව් පක්ෂය ගොඩනගන්න පුළුවන් වාතාවරණයක් නිර්මාණය වෙලා තියෙනවා. 2024 වර්ෂයේදී අපිට නව නායකත්වයක් එක්ක ශ්‍රී ලංකා නිදහස් පක්ෂය සියලු සියලු දේශපාලන පක්ෂයත් එක්ක නව සන්ධානයක් ගොඩනැගීමේ වගකීමේ පුරෝගාමී මෙහෙවරක් කරන්න අද අපිට ශ්‍රී ලංකා නිදහස් පක්ෂය තුල ශක්තියක් ලැබිලා තියෙනවා.
What is the Sri Lanka Freedom Party's future course of action?
ශ්‍රී ලංකා නිදහස් පක්ෂයේ දේශක් චෝදනා කරන මේ පක්ෂය දැන් වර්තමාන ආණ්ඩුව එල්ලන්න හදනවා කියලා.
කිසිසේත්ම එහෙම අපේ අදහසක් නැහැ. අපි එහෙම සාකච්ඡාවක් කළත් නැහැ. ශ්‍රී ලංකා නිදහස් පක්ෂය තවත් පක්ෂයකට හේතු කරන්න අවශ්‍යතාවයක් නැහැ. මේක හොඳට අපි කරගෙන ගියොත් මේක ආණ්ඩු බලය ලබා ගන්න පක්ෂය බවට පත් කරගන්න ලේසියෙම පුළුවන්.
ශ්‍රී ලංකා නිදහස් පක්ෂය අපේක්ෂා ඉදිරිපත් කරනවද මේ ගණන්
නෑ තාම එහෙම අපි මේ තියෙන තත්ත්වය තුල අපි පළවෙනියට පක්ෂය දාගන්න එපා. අපේක්ෂක ඉදිරිපත් කරන්න එක පක්ෂයක් ඉතුරු වෙන්න එපා. මෙච්චර කල් පක්ෂයක් තිබුණාද කියන එකවත් නැති තත්ත්වයටපත් වෙන්න කියන්නේ.
A group of activists said that Chandrika Kumaratunga will rebuild the SLFP.
දැන්ට තියෙන සුදුසුම නායකත්වය චන්ද්‍රිකා බණ්ඩාරනායක කුමාරතුංග මැතිණිය. එතුමිය පැහැදිලිව කියනවා දේශපාලන තනතුරු වලට දූර වලට එතුමිය තරඟ කරන්නේ නැහැ එන්නේ නැහැ කියලා. හරි එතකොට එතුමියට දැන් තියෙන උමනාව තියෙන්නේ පක්ෂය නැවත නගා හිටවලා මේ රටේ බලයට ගෙනල්ලා මේ හොරකම නාස්තිය දූෂණය නවත්තන්න තමයි එතුමියට අවශ්‍යතාවය තියෙන්නේ.
Former President Maithripala Sirisena said yesterday that he respects the court's decision and will present the facts to the court about the current state of the party.
No matter what challenges or problems come, we are a clean group of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, a group that is not related to the government, a group that is free from corruption and fraud, and we will continue to carry that in the upcoming political campaign. We will produce facts to the court in the future, and we hope to bring facts to the people about what the correct state of the party is.
When's the election?
Venerable Dr. Wallava Hengunavava Dharmaratna Thera, the chief incumbent of the Mihintale Raja Mahaviharya, called on the Mahanayak of the Malwatu chapter of the Siam sect, the most venerable Thibbatu Vavi Sri Sumangala Thera.
The aspirations of the people are not represented in the alliances formed in the country. These alliances are formed for the needs for the politicians. The people never called for alliances. The people need to understand that we will not crown anyone. The people need to wear the crown and enjoy the luxuries. However, the luxuries are enjoyed by 225 MPs. They are now abusing all the luxuries and overutilizing it according to their whims and fancies. Our duty is to stop this and ensure that the people of this country are given utmost priority.
ඉදිරියට ජනාධිපතිවරණයේ ඉදිරියට එයි කියලා මිනිස්සු කියන ඒක ඇත්ත.
අපි අනාගත කාලේදී මේ රටේ තත්ත්වයක් එක්ක අපි බලමු මොකද වෙන්නේ කියලා.
සමහරවිට වංශයට ආරාධනාවක් ලැබුණොත්
තාම නෑ මොකුත් එහෙම එකක්. අපි බලමු ඉස්සරහට මොකද වෙන්නේ කියලා.
Newsfirst with the people.
Activist turned actress Damitha Ratna and her husband were remanded to the 17th of April after they were produced in court.
Damitha Ratna, a well-known activist and actress, along with her husband, were arrested by the Criminal Investigation Department on Thursday, and the couple faces charges related to a substantial fraud amounting to nearly 3 million rupees. Allegedly, they falsely promised employment opportunities in South Korea.
The first investigation into the complaint was carried out by the Fraud Investigation Bureau. Thereafter, the CID took over the case and produced a charge under the Immigration and Immigration Act, where bail cannot be obtained. Accordingly, Damita Ratna was remanded.
සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාස මහත්තයාගේ හැවණලටත් මුන් දැන් බලේ ඉන්නේ. අපි දෙනනවා. අවුරුද්දට මොකද වෙන්නේ අවුරුද්දට? අවුරුද්ද සමරන කොයි හිටියත් අවුරුද්ද තියෙන හිතේ. දැන් සමරන්න වෙන්න. අපි අවුරුද්ද සමරනවා කියලා ළඟදීම.
An event to felicitate Police Chief Deshabandhu Tendakon took place at Nalanda College, Colombo.
The Old Boys Union of Nalanda College organised a felicitation themed Deshabinandanaya Yuktiye Pivisumata Pinbime Harasara.
සුකුෂ්පයක් වන් පවිත්‍ර නාලන්ද හවන අම්මව්වගේ පාසල ලබන්නේ
පුද්ගලයෙක් ලෙස ජීවිතේ ලැබිය හැකි තාම.
Today is a very happy day for me. I managed to bring honour to Nalanda College in producing the police chief of this country.
ලබා දීමට හැකියවීම පිළිබඳව නිහතමානීව සතුටු වෙනවා.
Can you imagine taking a sip of water tonight and knowing that it could ultimately kill you and those you love?
And what if you had no choice?
This was the story of villagers in a little corner of Surya Weber.
But not from today. From today, life will change.
Ihalakumbuk Weber is a tranquil village in the Hambantota district where life unfolds against a picturesque background but hides a desperate need. Life-sustaining water is both a dream and a nightmare for some 800 families who live here. A dream because it's their one true hope, and a nightmare because the water they do have is a death trap. Generations have come and gone, and families have pleaded for help, but nobody answered their call. That is until they reached out to Gammatha. And from today, things will change. Mahindra Amarasuriya, a name spoken of with reverence and respect in business and philanthropic circles, stepped forward to support this project with Gammatha.
By coming here and setting up the reverse osmosis plant with the help of the Navy, Gammatha has been able to provide these people, about 800 families I believe, with good drinking water, which is a prime need of this community. So like elsewhere, Gammatha is playing a fantastic role in developing the poorer people in the villages far away from the main cities and towns. So I'm very glad that I got the opportunity through Gammatha to participate in this very useful and valuable project. And I hope that the Gammatha will be able to continue this type of work all over Sri Lanka to develop the people who are living in faraway remote villages.
Government officials are a huge source of strength for all Gammatha projects, and today the Divisional Secretary of Surya Weber had this to say.
Gammatha in Sinhalese has two meanings. One is that it is the heart of the village. The other is that it is the center of the village. Both these connotations signify one thing, the fact that Gammatha lives and works with the poorest of the poor, the people who need the help most. This is how Gammatha was structured from the very beginning, to support the rural disadvantaged poor, just like you and I. As the Divisional Secretary representing the state apparatus, I thank Gammatha for doing this. Gammatha is built on the trust of the people, and that trust is established every single day. With the difficult steps we take in rural Sri Lanka, that trust is built by the people. We strongly believe that strengthening the people strengthens the village, and strengthening the village will ultimately strengthen our nation.
The foundation stone of this project was laid today, and the Sri Lankan Navy will render its technical expertise in realizing this project. Starting today, the villagers of Ihalakumbuk Weber will never have to shed tears over the shortage of clean drinking water.
Newsfirst with the people.
ඔසපුයම ඔබේ සෞඛ්‍ය කොටසක්. ඉතින් ඇයුබය ඔබේ පවුලේ අයගෙන් හංගන්නේ. ඊවා විශ්වාසයෙන් පෙරමුණේ.
Welcome back. The International Monetary Fund said that there is a strong expectation that agreements with commercial creditors consistent with program parameters will be reached by completion of Sri Lanka's second review. Julie Kozak, director of the IMF Communications Department, at a press briefing in Washington, D.C., said that there was significant progress in Sri Lanka's economic recovery efforts.
The Newsfirst Finance Report.
IMF forecasts positive outcome in Sri Lanka's debt negotiations.
Just stepping back to give you the lay of the land, on December 12th of 2023, the IMF's executive board approved the first review of Sri Lanka's program with the IMF. It enabled a disbursement of $337 million. And on March 21st, the IMF staff and the Sri Lankan authorities reached staff-level agreement on economic policies to conclude the second review, as well as the 2024 Article 4 consultation. Completion of the review by the Executive Board requires, first, the implementation of the prior actions that have been agreed, and second, completion of what we call financing assurances review. That review would need to confirm that multilateral partners are continuing their financing contributions to Sri Lanka, and it will also assess progress with debt restructuring, and it will need to conclude that, that adequate progress is being made. I would also add that macroeconomic policy reforms in Sri Lanka are starting to bear fruit. Commendable outcomes include rapid disinflation, robust reserve accumulation, and initial signs of economic growth while preserving stability of the financial system. Public finances have strengthened following substantial fiscal reforms, and it is critical that this reform momentum be continued. The next steps on the debt restructuring are to conclude the negotiations with external commercial creditors and to implement agreements in principle with official creditors. The domestic debt operations, part of the debt restructuring, are largely completed, and there is a strong expectation that agreements with commercial creditors consistent with program parameters will be reached by completion of the second review.
Sri Lankan government unveils plans to revamp the Hingurakkota domestic airport.
The Sri Lankan government has unveiled plans to revamp the Hingurakkota domestic airport, a historic airfield with roots dating back to World War II. Originally known as RAF Mineria, the airport served as a strategic base for the Royal Air Force of England during the war. Now, the government aims to elevate this antiquated facility into a bustling international airport poised to drive economic growth and connectivity. The Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Aviation said that the 2024 budget allocates a substantial sum of 2 billion rupees for the initial construction and development activities at Hingurakkota Airport. The first phase of development will focus on extending the existing runway, currently measuring 2,287 meters in length and 46 meters in width. The runway will be expanded to a total length of 2,500 meters. This enhancement will enable the airport to accommodate larger aircraft, including the popular Airbus A320 and Boeing B737 models. The comprehensive modernization project is estimated to cost a total of 17 billion rupees.
The Newsfirst Finance Report.
Speaking on Sri Lanka's journey towards economic recovery, US Ambassador to Sri Lanka Julie Chang said that Sri Lanka must ensure it does not repeat its past mistakes. She was speaking on day 2 of the Big, Bold, Brave 2024, organized by the Harvard Club of Sri Lanka in Colombo today.
The Harvard Club of Sri Lanka organised Big, Bold, Brave 2024, a groundbreaking 2-day thought leadership conference kicked off yesterday in Colombo. Members from 12 countries across the region participated in the Harvard Asia Pacific Regional Conference. US Ambassador to Sri Lanka Julie Chang had this to say.
Now, not too long ago, the world watched as Sri Lanka captured global headlines, but for all the wrong reasons, right? Massive protests, economic collapse, an IMF bailout, and to the great credit of the current leadership, the country is now undergoing debt restructuring and structural reforms and has undertaken very difficult measures to put the country on a long-term sustainable footing and comply with IMF commitments. But the people of Sri Lanka deserve and continue to demand in that process openness, transparency, and accountability from its leaders as the process of these reforms moves forward, especially on reducing corruption. Now, Sri Lanka must also ensure it does not repeat the past mistakes of being burdened by debt through loan upon loan, some loans to fund white elephant projects with very little economic return to its citizens. And we, the United States, want to be a part of that brighter future, be part of that solution.
The Harvard Asia Pacific Regional Conference, Big, Bold, Brave 2024, addressed the future of the Asia Pacific region through discussions on education, technology and sustainability.
Today in the world, we have some interesting news coming up. Now, starting with some news from our neighboring country, India. The Congress party released its manifesto for the upcoming 2024 Lok Sabha elections today.
Kenza, the Congress affirms and says that they will uphold its continuity in India's foreign policy. It adds their approach was profoundly shaped by the freedom movement and developed through the wisdom of visionary leaders like Jawaharlal Nehru.
They also said that they will work with Sri Lanka to restore the political and commercial relations between the two countries and help Sri Lanka resolve its political issues, especially with the Tamils.
Now, the party said that they will repair relations with the Maldives as well. According to the US government, bird flu has infected a dairy herd in Ohio for the first time and was detected in additional herds in Kansas and New Mexico. Now expanding an outbreak in cows that has raised concerns about possible risks to humans. The first reported case, Kenza, was reported in Texas and Kansas on the 25th of March.
Now, Thinal, the Ohio Department of Agriculture said the infected dairy in Ohio received cows on March 8th from a Texas dairy, which later confirmed a detection of bird flu. Now, the US Department of Agriculture has said transmission of the disease between the cows cannot be ruled out. According to a statement from Federation University Australia, researchers are seeking to find out after a scientific expedition last month found at least 532 dead Adelie penguins, with thousands more thought to have died.
Kenza, the university said while researchers suspect that the deadly H5N1 bird flu virus killed the penguins, the field tests were inconclusive. They also said that scientists are concerned specifically that these often fatal H5N1 influenza could decimate the threatened species of penguins and other animals on the remote southern continent.
Now, Tina, Eid, Ramadan is ending and the festival of Ramadan is close by, and worshippers around the world and even in Sri Lanka are ready to celebrate Ramadan. But some news has been, some tragic news has been happening in the world. Foreign media reports after dawn prayers at Al-Aqsa Mosque, Israeli forces fired tear gas at thousands of worshippers who were chanting slogans to protest against Israel war in Gaza.
Kenza, the foreign media also reports that the Israeli forces have arrested at least 5 of these worshippers. Now, according to foreign media, some 65,000 worshippers have already prayed at the Al-Aqsa on the last Friday of Ramadan.
And with that, we wrap up primetime news for tonight.
Thank you very much for joining us. Good night and take care.